Dude, it would be incredible. And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first Almost a Show live video recorded podcast. Sean is not joining us today, so we are not live from South Carolina. We are live from Seattle, Washington. This is Jay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And on the show today, I'm very humbled to have some special guests. I'm representing the Angels hat today because both of these fellows reside down in Southern California, my native land. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Bush. He's got a show of his own.
And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first
is that Bush?
live video recorded podcast.
What's happening, man?
Is not joining us today.
And we got our first thing. I think it's because you don't have headphones in.
This is Jay.
You're,
Everybody, thank you for joining us.
The intro
And
you
on
just
the
were
show
just doing right now
today, I'm very
It's
humbled
playing back.
to have some
on my computer.
special guests.
You got it pulled up on a like on a different browser, like on a window. Just
my native land. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Bush. He's
I don't know what's going on here, man. This Google Hangout is kind of it's playing back to me.
Bush has got all kinds of craziness going on right now.
It's
I don't know
funny
what
because
to do.
you hit go live, and then all of a sudden all this nonsense. It's okay.
You don't have headphones in. This is Jay.
Perry, are you getting that?
I can hear it.
Is it playing back to you, Perry?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm hearing it over your speakers via the mic.
This is great. Look, he looks so confused right now. He's so confused right now.
Yeah.
Alex's face, man, is the best right now.
He has no idea what's going on. He's just looking at the screen like, what is this?
Oh, there he goes. He's gone.
He's gone. He's like, I don't got time for this. Anyways, that was Bush. Successful first guest on the new live Almost a Show podcast. His mic's still muted. I don't know if he knows. While Bush is figuring out technical difficulties, next person that we have join us today is the featured guest. If you clicked on the link to the YouTube channel, you were able to see that we have somebody very special with us today. Joining us is author of Child of Atlantis, Ascension, Perry Covington. So Perry, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here.
So, since you're the man of the hour, you're not big time in it yet, but we're talking about your book sales, and you're definitely on your way. So tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and kind of where the idea for the book came from, and then we'll dive into the book a little bit and start talking about some plot lines and stuff like that. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Perry Covington, the author of Child of Atlantis. Let's see. I decided to write I'm a journalist by trade. Write news stories, things of that nature. I decided to write the book, let's see, I don't know, 3-4 years ago or so. I tell stories to my kids a lot before bed, and we do a story share, and we share stories. And one of the story shares, the girls and I started talking about a kid named Max. And, you know, if anyone knows me, I'm a huge comic book fan, so no story is complete without superpowers. So this kid had to have superpowers, and, you know, the girls and I just started making up stories about him, and from there I kind of developed the story, and you know, a couple years down the line, here I am. I have 7 books outlined. The first one's complete on Amazon, and yeah, that's how it kind of got its start.
Nice, man. So, writing that first book. So what's the plot line? It's Child of Atlantis, and is that going to be the series? Is that, and then each book is just going to have a different like subtitle to what's going on?
Yeah, pretty much. The series is the entire series is called Origins,
Okay.
and later on down when you're reading, you'll understand why. I don't want to give anything out yet, but yeah, Child of Atlantis.
We need them to buy the book.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Read the book and you'll figure it out. Now, but the Child of Atlantis is going to be the title for every book, and then everyone, like this first book, the subtitle is Ascension, and the second book that I'm working on right now is Destiny. So.
Okay.
The basic plot is, I mean, it's like any other hero's journey type of story, really. This kid, he's a normal kid. He's in high school. He's kind of an awkward dude, a little bit nerdy. And his parents decided to take him on a trip over the summer. And during the trip, his parents get attacked by a bunch of bad guys, and they start doing crazy things with they have abilities, and they start so the kid is Max, he's freaking out, and his parents get kidnapped, and during the whole kidnapping scene, he gets picked up by a girl and her robot guardian, and the girl and the robot save him and take him to this place called the Citadel, where he learns that he's a descendant of the lost empire of Atlantis. So from there he learns about the history of Atlantis, what the Atlanteans have been doing throughout time. Is Alex back?
Alex back. Like Alex just popped in like, I'm here.
I'm back.
I'm back.
Yeah, I figured it out, man. Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, Perry. What happened was
good.
I had a second tab open on YouTube with the live stream of what we're doing right now. So it was like playing from as if this I was just watching, like as a guest member or whatever, or audience member.
Right.
And so that was playing as we were talking, and it was like a little lag, a little delay. So it was like you were talking to me, and once you stopped, that kept going, and I'm like trying to answer like all these questions. It was weird, but I got it now. We're good now.
I know, and I was like, I think you may have like an extra tab open. I think you have a tab open or something, and you're just sitting there like,
he's like, nope,
man, this is crazy. I have no idea what's going on, and you were like listening to what I was saying and like kind of honing in on it, but it was like a 30-second delay. So
couldn't hear anything. But I'm good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Welcome back, Bush.
What's up, world?
What's up? So
Perry, you were saying they get kidnapped, and then he gets picked up by a character.
Yeah. So he gets picked up by
a girl
named Alana, and she's an Atlantean. She's actually one of their warriors. So she's trained in fighting and all this other stuff. She's pretty badass. And she kind of saves them from the bad guys, takes them along, and starts teaching them about the world that he hasn't known about. And he realizes that the Atlanteans have been around forever. They've been here since the beginning, teaching mankind or humankind all their knowledge and feeding them technology. And basically every event that's happened in history, the Atlanteans have been a part of, and they've been instrumental in kind of shaping mankind's history. So he has to take all that in and learn all that while he's trying to figure out how to save his parents. So that's the first book.
Nice. So why Atlantis? Like, where did kind of that fascination come from? Because my understanding of Atlantis is, I would guess, just pretty simple, that it was a civilization. I saw the Disney movie. They had like flying fish cars, and they would like shoot blue plasma laser beams at things. Mm-hmm. But it was this advanced society over in like ancient Greece, but I guess before then. But in that kind of area of the world, and we lost it somehow. So. Right. What got you so fascinated with this topic? Because I think it's cool. Like, I read a lot of young adult fictions. I guess the big one is John Green with The Fault in Our Stars. He's got a big movie out right now. The Vlogbrothers are huge on YouTube. But it's a big genre, and I think it's an untapped genre. And I like the direction that you went, kind of tying in some ancient history, but also with that mythical kind of twist into it, because not that many people know about Atlantis. So what got you fascinated enough to, put your head down, do some research, and write a book about it?
Well, it probably goes back to my upbringing. My dad, he's a huge history buff. He made me watch Discovery Channel and History Channel and all those documentaries, and I ended up, loving that stuff, and I'm really getting into ancient history. So it's really because of my dad. One of the things that we'd always talk about was lost cities or lost empires and archaeology as a whole, and Atlantis was kind of a topic that we'd always kind of go back to, he and I, because we've seen, there's tons and tons of documentaries out there, tons of books about the subject, about people searching for the actual lost city and whatnot. So really, it was my dad that got me into it as a kid, and I've kind of always had that in the back of my mind. And I saw the Disney movie too, you know what I mean? And that just kind of sparked it even more. So throughout the years, I've always kind of liked the idea of Atlantis and being a society that was advanced for its time. It kind of always intrigued me a little bit. So I figured, why not take it to the next level and make them the reason that we have all the technology that we have, make them the reason that we have all the whole idea of Prometheus, giving the fire to the people, basically.
Right.
That's what really turned me on to the whole to the whole idea of using them as my Prometheus, basically. So yeah, it was my dad's fault, really. So
blame dad.
I blame him for everything. But yeah, so I've always studied it, always kind of had an affection for the subject of Atlantis, and I did all the research and everything to kind of tie everything in, bringing it all together and making them a part of our history throughout the human evolution was really fun, man. Because I could take all the things that we've done as a society, as a culture, and kind of bring it back to them, which was kind of fun to do. So, in my head, I'm like, okay, Steve Jobs, he was an Atlantean. Who else was Atlantean? Plato, he was an Atlantean. So I would just take all these major figures in history, and make them Atlantean because I thought it was cool. So
nice.
Yeah.
And Bush, where's your knowledge on it? I mean, you're like Mr. Philosopher and super smart college kid right now. So
that's right.
I've been out of the game for a while, and do you have more knowledge on it than I do? Or are you just down with the Disney movie too, or I mean with Plato and stuff? Because that's a pretty predominant figure in the book, and I know Perry took creative liberties to kind of expand Plato outside of what we know about him. But
just a little bit.
Apparently he does have a little bit of history talking about Atlantis. So, Bush, are you smarter than me? Is that going to happen in this episode?
No, of course I'm not smarter than you.
You can say you are.
There's no serious barometer or way to measure the intellectual differences between us, but we can throw back some ideas and talk about it like that. As far as how I see Plato, and I don't know too much about what Plato was saying about Atlantis, and all that. I know he did have a lot to say about it, but I don't know. I haven't gotten into serious details about it yet. What kind of role does Plato play in your book?
Plato is kind of my Gandalf, my Dumbledore, really. If you follow those books, he's the teacher / father figure of the book. And in the book, he's an immortal, so he's been in existence throughout time. I mean, he was there for the building of the pyramids, basically. And the philosopher that most people know of is only a small part of his history. So he's thousands and thousands of years old in my book. And the reason I decided to use him, because he wrote, and this is just with all the other research I've had to do, he wrote a thing called Timaeus and Critias. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's one of his his books that he wrote, and it discusses Atlantis, and it talks about how they were an advanced civilization. And he talks about slightly a little bit about how they met their demise. It's really only one of the few, I think, the only written record of Atlantis. And from just that small portion of what he wrote, it sparked a whole debate in the scientific community. It sparked a bunch of expeditions for them to find it. So they're not quite sure if it was just an allegorical type of tale, or if it was if it was an actual account of an actual place. So that's what I gathered from Plato.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of what Plato was talking about was allegorical.
Sure.
With the cave and everything like that, and it's he's telling an account of Socrates' story.
Mm-hmm.
With that, how much of what Plato wrote is his own philosophy and not just speaking about what his teacher was talking about, though.
Yeah.
Is Atlantis his story, or?
Yeah, no, it's his, and a lot of historians and a lot of scholars will say it was just his commentary on a society that could possibly exist in a perfect world, his utopia, basically. So he was using this story of, but I mean, at the same time, there's people who argue, well, where did he get his source material from? Where did he actually decide to come up with even the name of Atlantis? So there's a lot of debate back and forth in the scientific community. I don't know what is right. I just used it.
Guys like Graham Hancock. You know who Graham Hancock is?
Yeah.
He's like an alternative
historian. Yeah.
Historian.
Totally.
And I don't know where he gets his documentation or whatever like that, but he's come up with these ancient maps that show the geography of the whole globe, way before history, prehistory.
Sure.
These people were using, and they talk about they have Atlantis on this map, and they have a layout of how Antarctica is, and every like well way before like Columbus was sailing, and we had satellites to actually like map this stuff out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of trippy, like when you think about these maps that are ancient, like thousands of years old, and you know, Plato was talking about this. These people had these maps back then, and today Atlantis is just a myth, or
Right.
you know, a good story to tell the kids and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, who knows, man? That, you know, it could probably could have existed. You know, it
Yeah,
seems
and
like it did. Someone had knowledge of it and kind of passed it down to a certain extent.
totally, and I think that's why it's such a popular topic. I mean, just the mystery of it all, and it possibly being true. I mean, there's a small, slight sliver of truth behind all of it, and people kind of cling on to that kind of stuff, man. You know, it's one of those things where it's an actual fairy tale that might be true. I mean, imagine reading about something that you're really into, elves or whatever the case may be, and then there's proof that there might be some truth to it. I mean, that's kind of exciting for some folks, and that's what kind of got me into the whole subject. So.
Yeah, maybe it helps you suspend your disbelief a little bit better.
Sure.
So, you know, it's like it makes it easier to buy into it.
Right.
So Perry, how do you strike that balance? Because this book is aimed at a specific demographic, and that doesn't mean that only this demographic is supposed to read the book.
Sure.
But I mean, just in that brief conversation, we're talking about some pretty intellectual stuff, allegories, and could it just be symbolism over truth, and then having to tie it in to make sense for who you want this readership to be. So how do you find that balance between taking like these heavy topics, but then presenting it in a way where people from the age range of, you know, whatever young adult fiction fans are, middle school, early high school, how do you make it accessible to them so they can read along and it's not dumbed down? Because I definitely, throughout reading the book, I never felt like it was brought down to a level where you're expecting your readers to be at a certain intellectual space.
Sure.
It's not dumbed down. It's smart writing. There's even a little bit of foul language in there. So, you know, you're pushing the envelope, being a little edgy. But how do you strike that balance to take heavy topics but then tie it into, you know, an accessible kind of format?
Well, you know, on face value, if you're reading the book, it's a basic adventure story with a bunch of kids going through some precarious situations and living to tell the tale. So that on that level, just reading it from that perspective, because you don't set out to write something like that and hope to change people's minds about life and their philosophies and things of that nature. You just want to write something that's entertaining. But what a lot of people might not understand or realize is when you're trying to do that, there's a lot of different levels that you have to kind of go through before you can get to even that point. Anybody can tell a good story. It's just a matter of you doing the research to do so. So all the different layers that are created during the process of writing the book, people will get there on their own, you know, as they read on. So it's not that I don't really set out to strike a balance. I'm just trying to tell a good story from the get-go. And I just happen to do a lot of research and a lot of back stuff to actually make that happen. So if people pick up on that, great. It's awesome because it kind of makes it a richer world for them. But if they're just reading it just for a fun, you know, quick summer read and they just want to have a good time for a few hours, then it works on that level too. So again, I didn't try to do that, honestly. I just wrote what I thought was fun to read. And all the other stuff, all the different levels of philosophy and of life in general, kind of get rolled into that on its own. So you know, it wasn't a conscious move on my part. I wasn't trying to be, you know, the next great writer in the world or anything like that. I was just trying to write a good story. So it just happened.
Yeah, I think that like one of the things like I've been noticing lately is that like you never know how you affect people. And you know, you may just be carrying along through life, like just doing your own thing, and not knowing that you're setting some example for someone, or someone's picking that up, and you know, taking the good stuff, taking what they want, and discarding the rest. So like maybe like that's kind of the same thing with the book. Like you're writing a book, and you want it to be as entertaining as possible.
Sure.
And you know, whatever like that, and people are taking that away. Like the Reese, for example, when we had that chat when we talked on my show.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, you know, her daughters are, you know, appreciating some of the philosophies in there in this lesson and that lesson. But that wasn't your intent at all. You were just like, let me make this as entertaining as possible.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line for me. at least. And when I hear stories like that, I mean, because it's only been out for a month and a half, and I've just from friends and family reading it, the story actually touching them on that level is way beyond anything that I'd expected. I didn't realize it could have that effect. I mean, that I could have that effect on folks. So it was kind of a cool feeling, man, to hear about Larissa's daughters and how they really got into the story, man. It's very humbling, and two, it's a little scary because
That's what I was going to say next, man. You almost have a responsibility now.
Exactly, yeah. So that's something I didn't even think about dealing with. So as I'm writing these stories, trying to finish these books up. That's in my head now. This responsibility, like you were saying, and a little frightening. Not going to lie, but at the same time, it's cool, man. It's cool to be able to do something like that through what I'm writing. So.
And I was listening to the interview that you had on Bush's show, the Why Is It So Hard podcast, and what really struck me is that your plan to 7 books is where you're trying to go with it, and then excel kind of the length of the stories as well as kind of the writing style to adapt to a generation because you want them to grow with the book as you start releasing them.
Absolutely.
How hard is that? How hard is it to? I know you're not trying to ramp it up too much, but you're already cognitive, obviously, of wanting to adapt your writing style to suit the readers as they grow as well. So, as you're writing, is that something that kind of hinders your creative ability because you don't want to go backwards. You're always trying to go forward. So, is that a difficult process when you're trying to plan out 7 books?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because when you're outlining things, it's just the basic bare bones story of what's going to happen. Easy enough, right?
Right.
But once you start getting into it and actually writing the chapters out, and you're constantly raising the bar for yourself. And when I'm doing this, like I'm in the middle of the 2nd book right now, and I've noticed the difficulty level has kind of gone up for me because I want to make sure that it's not only an extension of the first book, but an evolution as well. You know what I mean? So it's difficult as far as hindering my creativity on it. That doesn't really play a factor for me. What really is hard is just making sure that the style and the tone of the story is moving forward from what I did in the first book. That can take a little time because where I might have used a certain word or phrase, the reader is going to either one be used to that and kind of roll their eyes when they hear it again, and I'll want them to do that. I want them to be surprised, and I want them to kind of see where I'm going as far as the growth goes. Because I mean, like 7 books is going to take a while, man. I'm kind of pushing the envelope right now for myself because I'm trying to get this out, in the fall before Christmas time for the 2nd book. And it took me, 2 years to write the first book, and now I'm trying to do it in 6 months. You know what I mean? So a lot of late nights and no sleeping. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I'm going to keep on working on it and making sure that I don't disappoint people.
Yeah, and that's the other question I have written down because as much as I'm sure you would love to do this full time, you do have a full-time job. Being a husband is a full-time job, being a dad is a full-time job, and then you have your responsibilities with the Air Force. Mm-hmm. How do you find time to write a book? Like, I think all the time, like, I don't think my grammar is good enough or my sentence structure is at a level where somebody would read it. It'd take a lot of editing. But, I'm a new husband, but I don't have kids and I have a full-time job, but where do you find time to just sit down and how do you juggle that life balance to say, I'm going to write a book and I'm not just going to write to write, I'm writing with a vision to publish. Yeah. And how do you strike that balance to still having life going on? Because I'm sure there's a lot of inspiring authors out there. Everybody likes to write. Everybody wants to share their ideas. Luckily with a podcast format, which I found is I just get to talk and I don't have to worry about somebody, correcting my grammar or anything like that on page form. But where do you find time to make all that happen?
You have somebody constantly fact checking you all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. The time is really when I should be sleeping. I'm on my computer doing up the book. So you're right. It's super hard to find the time, and I would love to do it full time. I would love that to be my job, is just to write my books. That would be a dream come true. But it's not gonna stop me. I just don't sleep as much is all. I mean, and it's not like I'm doing it every night. You know what I mean? I might be painting a picture that I'm slaving away, with a ball and chain to my computer every night, sweating and but no, it's just I try to take a few hours during the week, and during the weekend I'll try to spend the day just writing. So and I've gotten to the point where and it's funny, man, because after the first book, and now that I'm writing the second one, I'm able to do a little more than usual. I can put out a few more pages than I usually would because I know the flow, I know the voice of the characters, so it's not as difficult getting the stuff down on paper. It's just finding the time, and like I said, I just don't sleep as much. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's pretty much what I do.
So basically, what you're saying is that by like book 5, 6, and 7, they're just going to write themselves. I mean, you just
That
gonna be
would
able to sit.
That would be fantastic.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll either die from lack of sleep or I'm gonna finish these books. So either one's gonna happen. We'll see.
Right, and I mean, if people are really enjoying you right now and they're fascinated by what's going on and they want to help you live your dream of doing this full time, where can they go to pick up this book right now?
Well, right now it's on sale on Amazon. You can buy the printed version or the Kindle version. I think in September I'm going to be able to put it on Nook and sell it in stores like Barnes and Noble and things of that nature. So yeah, it's just right now if you want to pick it up, it's on Amazon to buy. So
Very good. And then I understand that the next progression of what's going on is for those lazy people that don't like to read. You got the audio version coming out.
Yeah.
And we have a star among us. Bush is actually tapped to be a character in the story. So how you feeling about that?
Well, cheers, mate. I appreciate bringing that up. I'm looking forward to.
I almost choked, man.
No, man, I'm looking forward to it, bro. Like what I was telling Perry is my stepmom, my mom, whatever, she's English, and so like I heard an English accent like my whole life growing up, and I guess the character that I'm gonna be reading for has that English accent. So like I think I've been training for this role for my whole life. And
Right.
I will not let you down.
You're destined to play this role.
That's right.
Yeah.
How's the audiobook coming along, Perry? How's that process? Has it been fun? I mean, as the author, I'm sure as you're writing it, you have these voices in your head.
Yeah.
So when you have your friends and family, because you have gracious friends and family that are helping you along with this project,
Yeah, totally.
Is it hard for you to kind of sit back and be like, I'm allowing them to be creative and they're reading it, or do you put the firm fist down and you're like, that's not what Augie sounds like. That's not his voice. Let me.
Well, I mean, at first I thought it was going to be difficult because you're right. You create these voices in your head and you have a certain idea on what these people should sound like and how their voice would inflect during certain situations. But as I got into it with everybody, first of all, let me say it's freaking been a blast doing this audiobook, man. Because I sit here in my studio closet.
No,
And,
Perry, it's a studio. We talked about this before we started recording.
Closet.
It's a studio.
So anyway, and my clothes are right there. Anyway, it's really been a lot of fun. And what I found is that as the people are doing the voices for me, I'll tell them what I think it should sound like and what I think they would say. And after a while, people get used to it and they start playing with it, and they do things that I never would have expected. You know what I mean? And it's better than what I was thinking of. So I'm humble enough to understand that people have better ideas than me all the time. So when they do something that is really cool, I'll keep it, man, and I'll run with it because it's nice to see other people's interpretation of the actual character, and it's been a lot of fun. I didn't think I'd be able to let that go. As a writer, you're like, this is my baby, these are my characters. Don't screw it up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, man, it's been the actual opposite. It started out like that the first 10 minutes I was doing it, but then after that I figured, this is fantastic. I can't fight this. I just got to go with it. So yeah, I'm about, I don't know, I say we're about halfway done with it right now. Bush has got to record his part, and I got a couple more parts that need to be recorded. But yeah, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there.
That's good. That's good that you're open for like criticism and other people's inputs. Dealing with people a lot of times. People who are in charge or whatever are afraid to let go of control.
Sure.
With the possibility of making their product better or or that project or whatever. You know, I'm kind of like that with my podcast here, or at least I was like that in the beginning. Like I was holding on control of everything, and you know, in my head, a lot of the ideas were just how they were supposed to be. They were just right. And then kind of brought Josh in and brought Jay and Ricky in, talking about it more with other people and kind of collaborating a little bit. And once you kind of let go of those reins a little bit and get more input, I think it grows that whatever project. It grows it like without you even noticing. You know what I mean? It's like exponentially. It's just like, okay, I should have went that way instead of this. Or I should have, you know, whatever. You know, multiple inputs is always a good thing.
Yeah, totally. I think you'd be hard pressed not to take that into account. I doubt there's any one single person on this planet that's created something who had complete autonomy over it, and it was, you know, wildly successful. It takes a team to do things, and I learned that a long time ago. I am rarely the most talented person in a room, rarely. So as much help as I can get and suggestions I can get, man, the better. So, and that's why I kind of dig this whole process of the first book and everything, because people are emailing me and calling me and telling me, hey, you know, I really dug this part. It'd be cool if you did this. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, dude, that'd be a great idea. I'm going to use that in the next book. So, and I've gotten a lot of that. I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I really appreciate it. So, I'm totally using everything that I get and
let me give you some more feedback right now, dude.
What's up?
Start a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, join the community, Perry. Join the community.
Drink Kool-Aid, right?
It's good, bro. It's good. It's like the perfect outlet or a perfect forum to throw ideas back and forth and hear different you know, perspectives and everything like that. You know,
sure.
It's a huge benefit for me, at least. You know what I'm saying? And
well, that's why I got you guys. You guys are my podcast buddies. I only did one.
No, Perry, because you're gonna get big, and then you're gonna be like, oh, podcast with the author, and everybody's going to be like, man, screw those other two podcasts that you were on. I'm being on the one that's officially sponsored by the author of Child of Atlantis. That's what I'm going to. I don't care about Jay. I don't care about Sean or Bush. I'm going to you, and then you can bring us along. So
how about we make an agreement right now on air and say that any podcast I do will be with you guys? How about that? That's like logged in again, right? So once you hit publish, that's going to be legit?
Yeah, and I told you before we started we can't stop the train.
Yeah, so it's a verbal contract. It's done.
It's signed in. I think Bush, that's like a really important point that you just brought up, because I know that when I used to write papers, you know, I'm a creative mind, and I always got really good, great grades in creative writing and things like that on my essays. But if I got critique back, you know, and this, I'm talking like high schools, like it doesn't mean anything other than a letter grade. It hurts. For some reason, you just have like this emotional attachment to what you put down on a piece of paper, and thinking that what you put down are the best ideas, and who is someone else to say, aside from, you know, having a master's degree and being a teacher, who are they to tell me that my work is not good enough? And then when you have this project that you've spent, you know, months, if not years of research on, and then time and sweat and time away from your family, and putting it down and publishing it to the world, and then, you know, you have really good reviews on Amazon, but even like a 4 out of a 5-star, and you're doing it for a business sense too, so you even have more pride towards what's going on, because, you know, you're definitely, you put it down on for a reason, and you feel like this is a great piece of work. I never thought about how heavy that would be to get feedback on like a published, you know, piece of work, where you put it out there, and on the podcast people can just be like, I don't want to listen. Most people aren't rude enough to go on there and be like, -4 stars, I'm never listening to this junk, and this is why you shouldn't listen to it. But like if you go on Amazon and you get that 4-star review and you see a little bit of criticism, how do you kind of digest that? Are you just superhuman Perry and are able to be like, that golly, that's okay. I'm just gonna write a better one next time.
Negative feedback yet?
Well, I mean, yeah, because I've gotten a few 4-stars, and no, it does hurt a little bit. I mean, because you're people are just naturally prideful in general, you know what I mean? And did I think I put the best product I could have put out when I published it? Absolutely. You know what I mean? I thought this was gold, and there's no ands ifs about it. But yeah, when I read it, the first reaction is a little bit of anger and a little bit being hurt. But then I don't know, man. I've been through so many different things in my life where I've had criticism, and I've been able to take it and use it and kind of use it as fuel to make myself better or do better things. So I've kind of conditioned myself a little bit to take the criticism and kind of run with it. But yeah, no, I mean I'm not a robot. It does hurt a little bit when I get a review saying, you know, it was good, but you know what I mean. So I've just learned to not dwell on it so long, and kind of move past it after a few minutes. I give myself, you know, a day or so to mope and whine about being criticized, and then I kind of move on from there. So
Right. Yeah, and there's like no takesy backsies, so it's not like, oh, I'll just re-record it. Like, you can't re-record it. I mean, it's printed, it's published, it's out there. People have it forever. I don't know. I've read the book, and Perry, you're a good friend of mine, and when we go back, we've gotten in trouble together before.
Sure.
So, you know, I'm sure I'm a little biased towards it. I think it's excellent for what it is and the amount of work, and knowing that you did it, Perry. Wrote a book. I mean, come on. It's actually really good. And I think you have a lot to be proud of in that. And I mean, having little ones that they're going to be able to read it come pretty soon. I mean, that's bigger than a podcast. I think putting a book out kind of has me and Bush trumped right now a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate the praise, man. That means a lot to me. But yeah, I guess really at the end of the day, it's just like you said. My kids can read it when they get older, and that's something that's kind of, I mean, we all kind of play with the idea of being immortal a little bit, and this book will kind of, like, you know, it'll live past me, obviously, and my kids will be able to pass it on. So even if it just makes it to that level where my kids are reading it and enjoying it and passing it to their kids, say, this was your great granddaddy, you wrote this book, check it out.
Right.
That's cool right there, man. That's fantastic. So
until your kids like get into school, though, have you like ran this scenario through your head where, you know, they're sitting in 7th grade or whatever it is, and like they're going through this book, and the teacher could happen to like use your book, and they could use it in like a negative way. Like your kids could be like, "That's my daddy." Did I just put like a bad seed in your head right now?
A little bit. I never really thought about that, but that's funny, man. So they're in a creative writing class, and they say, "This is what you should not do when you're writing a story."
They could just use your material for book reports, and they have the author to help them flush out ideas. I mean,
yeah, I'll probably do the book report for them, so it'll be all good.
That's a good dad move right there. Making life easier for you in the future by writing books now.
Too easy.
So,
maybe that's kind of like how like the opposite of that would be like Pamela Anderson's kids or something like that. Like they have kids like this, like she a porn star or whatever like that, and then her kids grow up and they're in school and they have to deal with like kids or teachers, you know, looking at them at a certain way, or you know, your parent is this person or Obama's kids or whoever. Like maybe they'll kind of be in your shadows a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
I mean, you know, they'll have that. Oh, like Stephen King, if he had kids, or does he have kids, or whatever, I don't know. Like his kids will never be as good of a writer, you know, whatever papers they do, they'll never be a good writer. They'll always be in their parents' shadow. You know what I mean?
If the book gets big enough to where that's one of my concerns, I'm okay with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? To be on that Stephen King level would be crazy. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, honestly.
I mean, I'm not saying that you should.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should think about this, but
right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Nah.
That's kind of interesting though, like that position, like the kids bring something home, and like as an author, like you got some clout to be like, well, you know, your sentence structure is really bad, and I'm not saying this because I've been published 7 times, but this probably wouldn't be published. Try again.
Yeah, that'd be a fun place to be in. You know, it's not a big deal. I just wrote 7 books that millions of people have read. You know, no big deal. But
yeah,
people
have. It's pretty much the next Harry Potter. I don't know if you've heard of that one before, but
there's a little book called Harry Potter.
I'm up here now, so
it's fun.
No,
it's funny.
You're a good dad. You wouldn't do that.
They're all lined up on my shelf right now.
Inspiration. And I like how they're on the same level as your book. Is there, like, as a psychology major, I'm kind of looking at that. Like, is there something Is there something going on there? Do you feel like
No,
you're at that same level right now?
that's my, like we were talking about this earlier. That's my shameless plug for the book,
Right.
and this the level of the computer. I had to put it right there. So
Uh-huh.
if I had my it'd be up there is where I would have put it. But
Gotcha.
whatever.
For non-promotional purposes, that's
Right.
We're talking about. We're gonna kind of dive off the book real quick, but there's a character in the book, and Augie,
Mhm.
and he is a robot, for
Yes.
a lack of a better word, able to shapeshift and stuff like this. I posted something. I saw it on Dig, since we're talking about robots, and this is fascinating. I think Bush and I are going to have an interesting conversation on this. But there's this Joby. Did you guys see what I posted up on the Facebook? This new like robot that is being built by this doctor at MIT.
Yeah.
So it's really built off the idea of not just being a functional companion in the house, but built to be the first robot that consumers will actually see as being a member of their family. And the emotions that are built into it, and the ability for it to sense touch and your face recognition, and the way that they want you to interact with it, is it's kind of creepy. I think we were all waiting for this as wanting to see advancements in technology. And now that I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if that would be something that I would necessarily want in my house, because they even built it so its movements. It's based off the 3-axis motors. Its movements are designed to show emotion that it's feeling as well, and also from what you're saying to it, and it's designed for you to respond to it as if it was a child, not just something that's an extension of the household to make life easier for you. And I think that's kind of a dangerous slope to go down. We're already disconnected enough, and I feel like that's what's so powerful about podcasts, because like Bush was saying earlier, that it really allows you to expand not only your ideas but take in other people's information, because you can't be rude to a person necessarily verbally. It's easy to sit down on a computer and type something mean out because you don't have to see their face or you don't have to hear their voice back. And I feel like when we have a companion or something that's autonomous in the house that we can talk to, I feel like it's going to drift us even further apart from connecting with one another to get those satisfactions when we have something in the house that can do it. So, Bush, I know we see different viewpoints on things. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm like way off base and I'm just like freaking out about the future?
No, I think yeah, definitely. It's almost like how right now, like I have this phone in my hand, and I'm kind of engaging with the phone, and maybe I'm not 100% engaged with the conversation. And if somebody was in the room speaking with me, I'd be texting or Facebooking or whatever. So it takes you away from your human contact. Like it has that, it can relate on that level, but also like if you gotta, I say put the robot to work. You know what I mean? That'll you gotta vacuum or do your chores or whatever
Right.
like that. Have the robot do that, and maybe the family can spend more time together.
Yeah, and I feel like if it was built for that purpose, like that would be great. But it is designed to interact with. It's like a Furby on steroids. Like everybody remember Furbies, where like you had to talk to it and pet it, and it would learn language, and it's really was like the precursor to this. But this thing, like the camera's always on, so it's always watching your face and kind of picking up facial recognition. It's always listening to you, and it calls you by name. So just like Siri kind of does now, and it kind of makes me think of that movie Her, where he falls in love with this, robotic being. But this is like something the creator wants social interaction with the robot, not just a robot designed to help you make your day easier. Because that's where she sees innovation and how the future going.
Maybe in the same way we see our dogs.
Exactly. But like a child. Like think of it like a child though.
Part of the family. Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think eventually we're going to get there. People may have a hard time accepting it right now. Like people still have a hard time accepting cell phones. And I was talking about this on one of my episodes recently. A coworker of mine he doesn't want to accept smartphones and technology, and wants to go pull out a phone book to go to research anything. And it's like technology is going to keep going, like regardless. This is the era that we're going to have, or potentially have, robots living with us, or maybe the next generation, maybe Perry's kids. You know what I mean? maybe Perry's kids will have a robot grow up with them. You know what I mean? Your grandchildren. And so yeah, I think it's I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. You know, you kind of hear those opinions out there like iRobot, where technology is going to take over and it's going to be what's in the movie Terminator? What's the AI that kind of takes Skynet?
Yeah, that's what I labeled the post on my Facebook. I put Skynet over it.
Robots and everything like that, and it's no, man, no. I don't think we'll get to that point. But I do think we should just embrace it, you know.
Yeah, I think like you're saying, like the Roomba's cool. It like vacuums for you. There's robots that does the lawn. I think those are great ways for us to, because we have so much going on in life now, for us to dictate tasks that need to be done where we can spend more time with the family. I definitely see that side of it. I think what's dangerous about it though is that when it's designed for specific emotional responses and you almost feel bad if you're not giving it attention, it is just, computer chips and hardware and wiring, and it almost makes you feel like you now have this new obligation for it to like you. And Perry, you have, because in the commercial, and I want to ask you this specifically, there's a lot of interaction with the child, and it sits on the child's nightstand, and she touches it, and she tells it good night, and it like puts a heart on its face, and it's like, oh, good night, whatever the child's name is. They read stories together. As a father, do you feel like that kind of level of innovation would kind of hinder, your child's development? Is that something that you would want in your household for it to, because you get immediate feedback of what you want, so you don't. I think my main point is it almost allows you to disconnect from society even more, because as you talk to it and as you get the feedback and as it does more things for you, you automatically get that warm response that you're always looking for. There's never any negative kickback from the robot. So it allows you to kind of to speak to it, and it's going to be loving back to you always. So it kind of makes it seem like humans are obsolete for that level of interaction.
Right. As far as if I was going to have that in my house with my kids, I really think it's a case-by-case basis on which your interaction with your kids or with your family dictates whether or not this is going to be an effective tool or something that actually hurts our ability to connect with one another. Because if I were going to have a robot to read my daughters a story before bed, first of all, that's my territory. I would make sure that I was there with them. You know what I mean? Because I don't want them to. I wouldn't want them to only look to that robot for affection and for positive reinforcement, because that means I'm not doing my job as a parent. You know what I'm saying? So in my house, it would be a tool. It would be an extra cool thing that we would have right next to our Xbox, basically.
What if
did cool things?
What if like that bedtime story idea? What if like your TDY and you can project your voice through that robot, and that robot is like sitting by the bed reading a book, we're telling that story, but it's your voice, and maybe you're speaking directly through the robot to the kid, and it's just an extension of you.
Yeah, and I would be totally cool with that. Even if it could project my face on its face, that'd be pretty neat. You know what I mean? Yeah, and this is all conjecture, but yeah, as long as you can keep that connection with that human connection with your family and friends, I don't think it really is a bad thing. I think it'd be pretty neat, because you were even like you were just saying, TDY, or soldiers or airmen who are deployed overseas. All right,
so what is TDY for the non-fancy Air Force community?
TDY is like it's an acronym for temporary duty.
Yeah.
And pretty much like you go out of town, you go away to go do work somewhere.
Yeah, so you're away from family and friends.
Away from family, away from home.
Because to me, that would just be an advanced version of FaceTime or Skype. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be much different than that. And I'm totally cool with that. It's hard to say what would happen in 100 years or so, but if it came to the point where these artificial intelligences were to the level of becoming a part of the family, becoming a member of the family, I don't know if I'd have a problem with that, honestly. I would want to make sure that the values that I'm trying to instill in the kids and in the family were in place before we introduce something like that into the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So make sure we're solid as a unit before you bring something crazy like that into our circle. So
yeah, I think I'm probably making too much of it, But like even because I use Siri all the time. Like I literally use Siri on a daily basis when I'm driving to send a text, or if a text comes in and I'm driving and I don't want to like look down and use my phone, I'll have her read it back to me. But if she doesn't give me the answer that I want, maybe it's just me. This could be just like crazy ass Jay right now. But
Siri
like,
can be a little rude sometimes.
yeah, I feel like I want to yell at her, or if she's like, "I'm sorry, I'm unavailable to do that request right now." I want to like, well then what are you good for? Like, I don't need you. You need me. You gots to have me. You don't exist without me.
I'm not plugging you in tonight.
But then on the same like instance, I think because we're socially, brought up to give pleasantries and stuff, if she does something that's like helpful, I almost feel like I want to say like thank you. Like,
I
thank
do.
you, Siri.
I
Do you say
totally
thank you?
Oh,
Okay.
I definitely do. Especially when I have her on Bluetooth over my, over the truck system.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask her to call. I say, call Jennifer, call my wife, and she'll say, calling Jennifer, and I'll be like, thanks, Siri, or I totally say thank you. I don't know. I just think it's funny. I don't do it because I feel obligated to. I just like, so the kids start thanking her now. It's just kind of weird. They'll hear her over the thing. They're like, thanks, Siri. And I'm like, that's right.
Yeah. Use your manners. Use your manners
right.
with Siri. But that's kind of what freaks me out about this thing, though, is because it really allows that to, because we already feel not obligated, but it's just in our natural conversation. But now when we have this thing that's physically in front of us and it's performing tasks and doing things, and it has a face, and I don't know if it's like and it's not like a real face. It's a black screen, and it's like a little ball, and the ball like bends with the emotions that it's feeling, and like, yeah, you guys will have to check out the video. But like when it has a face, do you feel like you're more obligated to speak to it? Because let's remember, it's connected to the internet, but it's not a real thing. But do you feel like we're gonna feel like more obligated to like treat it like a child, like thank you so much, or you did such a great job today, because it's just gonna stare at you and be like, well, yeah, I did that for you. Like, do you feel like we're going to be obligated to, I don't know, treat it like a real member of the family?
I don't think we'll be obligated or feel obligated to do that. I think treating it like a member of the family will happen without even noticing.
Right.
Just like Perry was kind of touching on it, like we're just, that's just how we are engaging with other humans. Like we have these pleasantries, or we act certain ways to people who interact, or beings who interact the same way with us. So we talk differently between humans than we would to a dog who's a member of our family. But
don't tell my wife that, because she doesn't talk to our dog like it's a dog. It's our first child.
It's like her baby. That's her kid.
Yeah.
Mine's the same way. But like if this. I mean, can you say it's a being now? This robot, like maybe you can say that it's a being.
I think that's kind of the direction that it's going. Like I honestly do. When you see this thing like in action, it is like WALL-E. But yeah. What's the like little white one in WALL-E? Like its girlfriend?
Eva.
Yeah, that's what it's. See, Perry's got the kids, so I knew he would know the answer to that one. But it's like, but that's what it's designed like. It's cute and it's fun and it has personality, and it's not like Siri personality where she just has like really bad automated like inflections in her voice. Like the movements and the face and even its voice is very friendly and warm and kind of kiddish, and it really is. It's taking that step from being like a Siri to being like a small robotic child in your house.
I say bring it on, man.
Yeah, Bush is ready. Bush is ready for like a little family of these little Jobies just running around his house.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be excited because of I'm a tech head. I love new technology and everything. So that on that level I'd be kind of excited about it. But at the same time I'd be wary because of my kids. So I would accept it with some caveats, obviously, to how much interaction and how much autonomy it had in the house, I guess. So it'd be cool. It'd be really cool. I'd be a little. I'd be wary. I'd watch over it a lot, I think. And if it ever got out of hand, I'd have to chop its head off or something.
Earlier, Perry, you were talking about the book.
Yeah.
And you were saying like because of this book, now you're immortal, right? Like you have these ideas written down on these pages that will last forever, and people can read this 1,000 years from now, whatever. And like so, like as humans, right? Like we have this like innate desire to like live forever. Like we're afraid of death. We don't know what's on the other side. So, you know, we that's what we want to be. We want to be immortal. And then we got these robots that can do whatever they can do right now. You know, I haven't seen that video, Jay.
If you guys are trying to check out the video, facebook.com/almostashow. Just saying. Just saying.
That's the plug there. No, but like eventually, like these robots, right? The mechanics will be as good as what a human body can do, and or even better. Eventually, it will be better. And so, have you seen the movie Transcendence?
No, heard of it though.
Well, it's like this idea. This guy Ray Kurzweil, he's like this futurist, and it's Ray Kurzweil's like story depicted in the movie with Johnny Depp and everything like that. And so the idea is that like eventually like human consciousness will be able to go into like be uploaded into the internet, or you can have like a chip or some kind of card inside of a computer or inside of a robot, and the human's consciousness can control that robot, and that gives us that immortality. You know what I mean? Like if you have a prosthetic arm, right? Those prosthetic arms are pretty good these days. Like they connect to the brain, and you know you can control them very well. Eventually, like you'll have prosthetic legs and prosthetic arms and a prosthetic body. You know, at like what point does like the human not be human anymore? If you have like if you add all these prosthetics, you know, just throwing consciousness into a robot, you know, are we still human? You know what I'm saying? Like this robot here that you're talking about, I think the name is like Jibo or something like that.
Joby.
Joby?
Yep.
That's the Compton version, Jibo.
Jibo.
Yeah.
That's the hood version.
That's the hood version.
And to us reaching that immortality state into this transcendence, you know, maybe not step one, but like that's a step along this line of eventually, you know, human consciousness going away from the body and into something that's going to propel it forever.
I don't know. I've been watching. I started watching Battlestar Galactica, and I'll tell you right now, they went down this road. They created the robots, and they were supposed to be helpful, and then they rebelled, and then they came back in the form of humans, and they can't tell them apart from what's a real human, and you know what's the enemy. I'm telling you, it didn't end well for the Battlestar folk.
We can't stop this path though. You know what I mean? Like innovation and technology is you can't stop it at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to say like, you know, that's something that we should be worried about or worried or whatever, like it's too late to even think like that now. You know, we just have to accept it and make the proper like.
It's like the video podcast right now. We can't stop it. It's rolling. There's no stop button. Well, there is a stop button, but that means everything stops. I think that's a good analogy for life.
There you go.
You just can't stop it, because if you stop it to like try to reflect and, you know, change what happens or stop innovation, you stop too. So that was good. Bush, what's going on with the podcast, man? What do you want to tell the viewers to what's going on with yours? And if you're looking for talks like we're having right now, Bush's podcast is literally one of the most reflective and not only introspective, but the sharing of ideas is very heavy on that show, and not so heavy that you can't, you know, get involved with it and listen. I mean, they're not talking like super fancy theories, but it's a really good, you know, way to sit back and listen and be reflective and really think about things other than, you know, what did somebody post on Facebook or things like that. Like heavier topics that I think we as humans need to start using our brains a little bit more. And Bush really pushes that envelope. So what's going on with the show? What should viewers be looking forward to here pretty soon?
Viewers, you know, there's no like one thing that I could say like you should be looking forward to. If you listen to the show right now, you kind of know what I'm about and what the show is about. And if you're gonna be a new listener, what I like to do is talk about things that I think people don't think about too often, and maybe they should. You know. I like to talk about empathy. I like to talk about thinking. I like to talk about self-reflection. I'll probably talk about floating and sensory deprivation things like every episode.
Dude, I almost floated when I was in Whistler for my honeymoon. They had like a float thing. I don't know. Brittany and I talked about it, and we're like, man, that'd be cool. Let's go get an hour massage. And like, so we didn't pull the trigger, but I saw it for the first time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Whenever you have a chance, man, go do that. I would recommend that to everybody. I would recommend, and pretty much this is my show is about, man, just self-reflection and spreading these positive vibes, man. I think we get wrapped up in our own silliness sometimes, our own self-importance, that like we forget that we're just another cog in the wheel, man. And if this wheel's going to keep rolling, you know, we got to let go of the self sometimes. And yeah. So you know, that's what my show is about. Gonna keep pumping out these episodes and getting interesting guests on the show. Maybe. No, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. So if somebody wants to find your show, what avenue do you recommend they find past episodes and then able to stay current on upcoming episodes? Where do you recommend they go?
Yeah, you can go to Podomatic. That's Podomatic, Podomatic.com, and just search "Why Is It So Hard" podcast. You can search on iTunes, same name. Search on Stitcher, the same thing. Or you can like the Facebook page, and there's a link there to the Stitcher forum or media or whatever you want to call it, to the Stitcher link and listen. It's like an embed. You can listen from Facebook. We're all over the place.
Good stuff. So that's the Why Is It So Hard podcast. In case you guys just need.
See my name down here, Alex Bush, and at @AlexBush. That's the Twitter account, and my Instagram as well. So I put little interesting things up there every now and again. You can follow me there too.
And then with Perry, what we've all been waiting for, we're going to do a little rapid fire, a little question and answer. I just want you, whatever comes up between the two options, don't really think about it. You can have a couple let me think, but I just want you to be honest and with it.
Okay.
Southern California guy. So, Angels or Dodgers?
Angels.
Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter or Game of Thrones?
Harry Potter.
Vampire Diaries or Twilight?
Vampire Diaries.
All right, so I think you're going to be biased on this one. Captain America or Iron Man?
Captain America.
Okay, so Thor as a guy or Thor as a female? Because I saw that was switching up.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, Thor as a guy.
And current Captain America or new Hawk Captain America?
Current.
Or the Falcon. I think it's the Falcon, not the Hawk. Something like that. All right, favorite food?
Cookies.
Favorite food that will sustain you for longer than cookies will?
Shit. I never... chicken.
And do you still have the silver truck?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the silver truck story, or should we just let that bygones be bygones?
No, let bygones be bygones. There's no reason to get into that. But the tailgate's doing fantastic.
That's good to know. Bush, yeah. I don't know if you know that story, but
we'll tell you offline.
We'll tell you offline. Still have nightmares. All right, everybody. Aside from the first initial hiccup, I feel like this was a very successful show. Look forward to this going forward. Sean will be joining us on the next one. He was just super busy, and that's really why you guys listen to Almost a Show anyways. Not for the new guy, but for Sean. So on behalf of him and on behalf of myself, I really would like to extend, lots of thank yous for Bush and Perry for taking the time on their Saturdays to join us and record. Check Bush out on Why Is It So Hard podcast. And Perry, one more time, your elevator pitch. So you got 30 seconds to why people need to buy the book and where do they need to go to get it.
Okay. If you're into alternate history and you like people with superpowers and romance, then go check out the book on Amazon. And you can also check me out on the Facebook, facebook.com/ChildOfAtlantis and also at Twitter at ChildOfAtlantis. So go check it out.
We'll link up everything on our Facebook page, facebook.com/almostashow. Twitter's right there. At the JCaz if you want to yell at me and tell me how horrible this was, or if you want to be nice and treat me like a Joby and tell me how great it was. I'll be nice back. And we'll do that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And
thank you. Thanks for having me, man. I much appreciate it.
Thanks, Bush.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
All right, Perry.